This is the Nasserman Hockey Podcast with James Nichols and John Zeller. And we are live after the New York Islanders defeat the Pittsburgh Penguins 5-3 on a big game by Big Brock Nelson and advance to the second round of the playoffs. But before I do that, let's say hello to my good buddy John Zeller. What's going on, pal?
Having a heck of a day over here.
Heck of a
that
day.
Game. So I turned it on. Who knew that game was at 6:30? How did I not know that? So
I did not know either.
I look up. I'm setting up my new desk and getting my room all situated, and go to make dinner. I'm like, oh, I have like 10 minutes to make dinner. Great. I turned the game on. There's 7 minutes left in the first period.
Yep.
What the hell is that? So I text you and Joe, and I'm like, did anyone know this? And no one knew. Well, maybe Joe, because he's a real professional. But you and I didn't know. Speaks volumes. It'd be embarrassing if we had a podcast. And yeah, so other than that, it was really good. And I turned it on. I was really disappointed. I think I looked away for a second. Like my mom called. I looked away, and it was 3-2 Islanders. I'm like, what is happening? So I'm looking at the replays, and it was like bedlam first period for me.
You asked me, you were like, is Semyon Varlamov starting? Because the Islanders are down.
All right, so you want to know why I said that? Because Brendan Burke said, and this is again 7 minutes left in the first or 8 minutes left in the first, and he says, first big stop by Sorokin. So I'm like, wait, they're down 2-1. How is this the first big stop for him?
Yeah, first shot of the game.
What the hell happened? So I'm like, did Varlamov start the game? Like, how did this? Which would have made sense, right? 10 minutes into the game, 2-0. Maybe 2 of 3 shots go in.
Yeah.
Sure. Maybe Sorokin goes in. It would have been super weird for him to start the game, and I would have had a lot of questions. But having not been on Twitter much this week, I've only known what was happening like going into the game, like 20 minutes before, probably like everybody else. But I haven't speculated or whatever it is that we pretend like we know what we're doing. So I had no idea what was happening.
Yes. So Sorokin starts the game, and listen, Penguins get the first shot of the game, and it winds up going in. And at that point, I don't want to say that everybody was worried, because honestly, when they scored, I was like, all right, listen, it was good play, right? Carter gets a good pass in the slot, scores 5-hole on Sorokin. But I don't know, for the longest time with this team, I've never been scared of playing from behind, and they proved it yet again. Right? They quickly answer to the first goal by Carter, and boom, Beauvillier scores backhand glove side on Johnny.
That was an Eberle goal.
An
Eberle-esque goal for sure.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
tight backhand shot. Really up high, like over the shoulder, not even like the glove, like over the shoulder.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty amazing, and he's known to do that. He did that, he's had these kind of one-on-one goals a bunch of times, and as Butchie pointed out during the game, he beat Sidney Crosby on that play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, and that's nothing. That's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, and it was a quick answer too. It was only about 3 minutes later, so it was good to see that although the goal came pretty quick, the Islanders were quick to answer. So, and that happened a couple of times. Gensel gets the next goal at for about 4 minutes after the second goal, but they answer right back. And another minute later, Kyle Palmieri, which I tweeted this out too. Kyle Palmieri scores a goal on a JG Peugeot wrister from the blue line, and I'm not sure if maybe Jari didn't see it, but he made the stop. It created a rebound. And when was the last time you saw a goal like Palmieri scored today that somebody was on the doorstep waiting for the rebound?
It doesn't, not like that bang bang play,
right?
Certainly, I don't know the last time that I saw that from the Islanders, and it's a very like typical hockey play, like that happens quite often. And stick on the ice, drive the net, get position. That's pretty standard stuff there. That's how you would draw it up, but it's not often that you see from the Islanders. So I like that. The two of them are going.
Yeah.
And I think Zajac had a good game. He was energetic. Yes. So we're going to put up this comment from Michael. Travis Zajac absolutely played to save the game. That was amazing. His stick kind of getting in there. They're supporting each other. That was this kind of whole game, and this game and that 4-0 victory were the two best games of the playoffs easily.
Absolutely.
In the other two wins, they didn't look particularly good. There's nothing that you could really, even if, like we talked about, what is today? Wednesday. We talked about on Monday night. They didn't look particularly good.
Yeah.
When they won those games, which was worrisome. So it's good that they were supporting one another. Zajac comes in, doesn't really miss a beat. He was heavy on the puck. He was tenacious. He was winning puck battles. I think it was really good to see that, and it should give that line some confidence too. They continued to play well in this game alongside Zajac. They didn't seem, like I said, they didn't seem to miss a beat there. So I was really, really happy to see that, on top of Palmieri getting his third goal of the series.
Yeah, back on the score sheet. Dean brings up an interesting point here. I'm just going to throw this comment up. And, he says, man, people are taking away from the Isles winning and slowly getting better over the series. Everyone's simply saying Jari is the reason the Isles won, kind of driving me nuts. I
have thoughts on this too, and I think we might be saying the same thing.
Yeah, here's the thing on that, right? The Islanders at many times didn't show up. Now, when they did, they really did. And you saw that tonight, right? They were, they played from behind 3 separate times in this game. So they really showed up when they had to. And this was one of the better games. I don't want to say the best game, because the best game was probably game 4 when they won 4-1. But this was definitely at least the second best game, where they battled back, they battled hard, and it was just a really good game. Did they have some, flaws in this game? Yeah, obviously, the Penguins scored a couple goals, but
on the other team scoring doesn't mean like a 4-0. You can play a really bad game and win 4-0.
Yeah,
or rather, you can play a better game winning 5-3,
right,
than winning 3-0. Those two games are. That's not. I know it sounds like a really silly argument, but I think I've definitely seen them play better games, giving up goals. Mm-hmm. People are going to score goals. You're not going to have shutouts every single game.
Now, I will say one constant that remained throughout most of the series was how good the defensive pair of Pelech and Pulock were up against the Crosby line. That defensive tandem of Pelech and Pulock were outstanding the whole series. They limited Crosby to 2 points in a 6-game series. That's pretty unheard of when it comes to
considering he lit them up this season.
Right, exactly. He had 9 points in 8 games, and a career 122 points in 75 games. Don't ask me why I know that. I think
I wrote an article for Hockey Writers on. You wrote it the other day, but then I had written he's number 4 all time against the Islanders.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like Mark Recchi, Gretzky.
He has
Lemieux,
the most
Yager, rather.
Yeah, he has the most points against the Islanders of any team in his career. So
yeah, he's definitely
he's a known Islander killer. And the fact that Pelech and Pulock really stuck it to him this series and made sure that he stayed off the score sheet as much as possible was huge. So that was one constant. The defense and the structure in their own end, it remained the same for the most part. They made it incredibly difficult for the Penguins to score. The forecheck was really good
in this game.
In this game, yes, game was really good.
But before moving too far away from Dean's comment, I want to add, because you didn't say what I was going to say.
Oh, what are you going to say?
The Islanders played good in 2 games. They won 4 games, right? So they had to have played good enough,
right?
Or well enough, rather. However, I don't know that they simply just won the series. So saying that Jari really lost it for the Penguins, a part of me thinks the Penguins lost this series just as much as the Islanders won. They obviously, like, they beat the Islanders 6 times this year. That's no small feat.
Right.
I'll probably get roasted for this take. They just didn't play well. Like, it was very obvious. And even Scott W said it tonight. Isles were horrible on puck battles tonight. We'll pull it up here. Horrible on puck battles tonight, still pulled it off. Penguins played really fast, and Islanders were up to the challenge. I think withstanding things to a certain degree is fine, right? Like, we saw that against the Penguins and the Flyers. The Capitals and the Flyers last postseason, where they took those moments where they were able to withstand against Tampa. That was pretty much the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
The Islanders, they didn't just simply win the series. I think the Penguins also lost it just as much. They gave up the opportunities and they didn't play well. Jari was not good at all. So I think, no, it's not just that Jari played poorly. The Islanders pulled it off when they needed to. But that stuff doesn't help.
Yeah, they definitely had some flaws in their system, and hopefully they can be rid of that come the second round. Now, there is going to be a little bit of time before the second round starts, as other series have to still finish their games. I know there are some series going on right now, but it's true, and Andre says it best here. It's incredible. The Bailey Nelson Beauvillier line will drive you nuts with inconsistent play during the season, but when the playoffs start, they take off, and they were outstanding.
I don't think I've written anything more often in articles than this team is inconsistent.
Yeah.
I don't think there's nothing that I've in 2+ years writing with the Hockey Writers and my almost 10 years writing about the Islanders. I don't know that I've ever said anything more.
Yeah, it's interesting because, and you're both right, Andre, and you, John, you're both right because, we'll see Nelson score in bunches. We'll see Beauvillier score in bunches. We'll see Bailey score in bunches. And then we'll see them on milk cartons because they've been gone for, 6-7 games and you can't find them. But
it is the issue that at the same time that they dry up, the rest of the team dries up. Like, it seems like when they're going, everybody's going. And when they're not going, even seemingly unrelated lines, but like tonight, that third line gets going and the second line gets going.
Yeah.
First line, they weren't a liability necessarily. I think they were on the ice for a goal against. But I think it's weird how that works, like how they're really kind of stirring the drink.
Yeah, well, everyone
as far as the offense
tonight
is concerned.
Right. Everyone was buzzing tonight, but it was definitely led by that second line. 8 points combined, and they had that at only I think there was 28 minutes left in the game, and they had already totaled a combined 8 points. So Nelson had 2 goals, Beauvillier had a goal, pair of assists for Bailey, and I don't math, so I don't know if that adds up. So I don't know if that was all 8 points for them, but
that's not always my favorite stat. Like I don't know that I want to hear about a line that got so many points. They all played well.
Well, tonight it does tell the story, right? Tonight they played so well that they had a combined 8 total points.
No, I get the stat. I'm just saying I don't know that I put stock in the whole line getting the points. It's
yeah.
You know what I mean? I just tell me who got what.
Right. But let's talk about Ilya Sorokin because he made the big saves when he had to. We all thought he made that initial save that ended up actually being that Travis Zajac play of the game we said earlier. But regardless, he still kept the Islanders in the game. He made the saves that he was supposed to make. And I don't really have any issues with the goals he allowed, right? I mean, they were all pretty standard good goals by the Penguins.
I mean, I think they're just as much, the team in front of him breaking down a little bit, just as much as maybe he would have liked to have maybe one of them back.
Yeah.
But 2-3 goals a game isn't crazy, especially if the Islanders can find a way to score 3+. I wrote the series preview, so we're going to talk about the Bruins in a little bit, and that's that second round series. The offense for the Islanders, as we said, is really inconsistent, kind of led by that second line, and at the same time, the Islanders have now scored 3 goals or more in the last 3 games.
Right.
So that says something. I mean, if the offense was ever going to start ramping up and being able to score goals, this is a great time, against the Boston Bruins team that can really put the puck behind you in your own net. This is a really good time. So I was happy to kind of see that and all the, kind of the right guys stepping up. I would have loved to see Barzal and Eberle get on the board tonight, but I think they did okay. They did the thing.
Yeah, so they played a pretty good game, and let's talk about Mr. Matthew Barzal turns 24 years old today. Happy birthday! But no goals and 3 assists through 6 games in this series. He was pretty much a non-factor. Now, granted, he did have a pretty good game tonight. He had a lot of looks. He had a lot of
This was
chances.
his best game for
This was.
as far as he's still frustrating to watch. Like, even if he has a good play, immediately after that, he tries to go across the blue line and go east-west, and he loses the puck. He's trying to just do too much. Instead of shoot for a rebound and let Eberle drive the net like Palmieri did on Pajot's shot, he's trying to make the fancy pass to get Eberle that inside track on that backhand shot we were talking about earlier.
Right.
So it's frustrating to watch him, and even it's so funny because I knew we were going to talk about Barzal. And, that he had a better game, but all I remember is the frustrating shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating because, moving forward, right, they're going to go play the Bruins, and that's going to be definitely a tougher test, right? You're not going to have a Tristan Jarry at net. You're going to have a Tuukka Rask or a Jarl Halak who are going to be more consistent. And in order to advance to the next round and take a couple of games from the Bruins, you're going to have your best player be your best player. Now, maybe that line isn't their best line right now. Maybe, Beauvillier, Nelson, and Bailey can, drive the offense, but you still need something from Barzal, who's your best player.
You at least need to match either the perfection line or what Hall is now bringing to the table. You have to at least bring, your star players kind of have to net out. Then you need your secondary scorers to kind of be the ones to play better than the other team's secondary scorers, and really take it. You can see games being like 2-2 going into the third period every single game, and then it's just a matter of your secondary scorers kind of coming in there and playing defense, not being a liability, but then on the other end of the ice you got to score. Sometimes one of the team's superstars are going to score more than the other teams, but that usually they're both up to the task. Like, that's why they're their team's best players. Just the same. And I think I wrote this going into this, into tonight's game for the hockey writers, that, the same way. And maybe we talked about this on Monday as well. Crosby didn't, he had 2 points in the series.
2 points.
Barzal had 3. Okay. That was a net zero for them, right? It was a Jeff Carter. It was a Brock Nelson.
Right.
It wasn't Malkin, it wasn't Eberle. So those star players were getting shut down. The other team's shutdown players were doing a good job against the stars on both teams. It all came down to the secondary scoring.
Yeah.
And that was ultimately what, who was or wasn't a liability and who was able to put the puck in the net. And that's what it came down to. It's going to, that spotlight is going to be even more on that in this Boston series, because the Bruins just have that depth now. Craig Smith is 3 points in 5 games. Hall has 3 points in 5 games. Even Charlie McAvoy has 5 points so far.
Yeah, McAvoy's playing real well. And Craig Smith, before you move on from Craig Smith, he's an Islander killer.
Yeah, this season he was all over them. So
not even just this season, a career Islander killer.
Career. So and we just, like, that seems to be a lot of players. even in the modern era, even the last 3 years, there are just some players that just have the Islanders number. They just managed to. The Islanders just seem, we forget about it because the Islanders are winning games.
It's Sidney Crosby, Craig Smith, and any player who's having their first game of the year or first game of their career.
God, it's something else. So, the Bruins' top 2 lines are going to be a lot for the Islanders to handle. You're going to see a lot of Pajot out there, against those guys, and so Palmieri might not be the offense. So Brock Nelson and that line really do need to continue that. I see the Bruins giving Barzal on that line a heck of a time. So it's really going to come down to which of the teams, as I said, which of the team's secondary scorers can be both the shutdown in the defensive zone and the neutral zone, as the Islanders like to do, and regroup and go the other way and put the puck in the net. I know that seems really simple. It's obviously more complicated than that, but it's that I think that's the key to the Islanders winning that series. Like, they have to be able to find that secondary scoring.
Yeah. Now, something that I kind of want to make a comparison here We're talking about secondary scoring, and the play of the game for me was that tic-tac-toe play between Nelson, Bailey, and Beauvillier, in which Beauvillier dropped the puck to Bailey, and Bailey made that excellent feed over to Nelson for the tap-in goal.
Snapped it over.
Snapped it around. Now, that was a fantastic sequence. And then I look at the end of the game, and the Islanders get a 4-minute power play. And the barn was rocking, the fans were going crazy, and there wasn't much push from the Penguins at that point. Kind of felt like they threw in the towel. However, they still didn't score a power play goal on that 4-minute power play, something that they continue to kind of not do. I know they had the one power play goal a couple of games ago by Beauvillier, which was great, but that power play is not getting going at all.
Yeah, is that power play at the end of that game with the situation that they're in? Like, the Penguins are going to be more aggressive. The Islanders know they pretty much just like don't have to give a goal up at this point.
Right.
It's not the same sense of urgency. Like, I guess it would have been nice, even in the empty net. My goodness, that one back and forth play that Beauvillier tried to give back to Nelson, he hit the side of the net.
Yeah.
Geez, I mean, just something. But I don't know that I'm worried about that 4-minute power play. The power play is a problem. To me, that 4-minute one, sure.
Well, my point was, because now we're gonna talk about the Bruins, and that power play is gonna be something that the Islanders have to get going. And when I compare it to the play that Beauvillier, Nelson, and Bailey put together, where they snap the puck around, where's that mentality on the power play when they're up a man? Right?
They're not a rush off the rush power play team. That's the difference between those plays. That's a 5-on-5 off the rush, driving the net, giving weak side player driving the net, Beauvillier dropping it and providing a screen and getting it, just creating traffic and havoc in front, and then Bailey just having good vision. Like that off the rush is very different than on the power play.
Yeah.
Now, if that doesn't mean that it's a lot harder to score, and maybe this, and you watch a lot of hockey, and maybe for other people that don't, and then are just like kind of Islander fans, and maybe you didn't play, notice how the defense is very different on the opposing team, even with 4 players, especially now, and with the way that the Islanders try to enter the zone with speed. The other team's defense is pretty much 4 across, or at least 2 and 2 on their blue line.
Right.
It's almost impossible to get past that off the rush on the power play. So unless they kind of just go up the ice and catch the other team in the neutral zone and really, really push the pace, which the Islanders do not do on the power play, that is not their strategy. You're just not going to be able to see that. Now, to your point with the creativeness, they need to do that. They need to move their feet a lot more. They need to use that vision. Like, you obviously have guys in, maybe if Wahlstrom comes back, which is possible with a nice little break here. Bailey obviously has that. Barzal has that. That's just, for whatever reason, that's just not their strategy. They do too much standing around. So I agree with you there. It's very different plays.
Yeah.
But I agree that they need to take that mentality at the very least and start moving around. That's how things get broken down. That's how you break down the other team's defense, is creating that movement, getting them to miss coverage, and finding the open guy. Again, that's a very simple breakdown of that's hockey, right?
Yeah.
Move the puck around until there's an opening and a breakdown and shoot it.
Right. So before we move on to the Bruins, we're getting a couple updates from head coach Barry Trotz. He said that Dal Cole actually tweaked something the other day, and he was not an option to go tonight. And we had known going into the game that if it wasn't going to be Wahlstrom, it was going to be Zajac. But there's an update on Dal Cole. And then he followed that up with, listen, if it wasn't for the fans, I don't know if we would have gotten this done tonight. Let's just talk about the Coliseum real quick, because this was special. 9,000 fans get to go into the Coliseum for a pivotal game, a real pivotal game, and Trotz said it himself. I don't know if we could have done it without them. The 6th man, he's calling them. I guess kind of an ode to the Seattle Seahawks 12th man, or maybe the NBA's own 6th man. But The Islanders have their sixth man in the fans back in the stands, and the atmosphere was electric tonight.
Yeah, even I was thinking during the game, like maybe it was. I thought I couldn't tell if I thought it was really loud because it was the Coliseum,
Yeah,
or because I'm not used to hearing the fans.
right.
You know,
That's
and
true too.
it's been a huge kind of uptick in the amount of fans, like in a very short period of time, who's been able to attend the games. So I couldn't tell if it was just really loud. You know, I definitely got memories of hearing the Coliseum on TV and being there. So it's like I totally forgot, but it was just weird to hear that, like not on a YouTube video from a year or two ago.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think they definitely got energy from that. You hope that, they played better on the road in this series. If there's anything to take away from that, is that they wound up finding a way to win games on the road in this series,
which is a big deal
after super not playing well.
Yeah,
during the regular season on the road. So not only did they kind of vanquish the Penguins in 6 games, winning 4 of them to kind of erase what had happened during the regular season. And let's not forget the Penguins won the division. So let's not take anything away from, they still found a way to win hockey games.
Yep, absolutely.
So and I believe Boston's a 3rd seed on the 4th seed.
Yeah.
That was close. Had they win a couple more games, they had home ice advantage going into that second round. Then they don't play the Penguins in the first round. So I guess maybe it's moot, but be that as it may, the Islanders have, another team to vanquish after they dropped the last 2 against Boston, which is probably closer to the team that we're going to be facing in that second round.
Yeah.
They're healthy. Rask is going to be back. Hall is now in the lineup. He had 14 points in 16 games to end the season. It's ridiculous. After 19 and 37 with the Sabres.
Yeah.
He was on an absolute tear, and he kicked it off against the Islanders, so it was a little embarrassing for them. So they need to come in as they always do for whatever, either that's just in their own head or because of the media or whatever the case is. They come in as the underdog, and they really need to push the pace. They need to play their game. They need to set the tempo, and they need to find a way to just control the Bruins and do more than just bend and not break. You can't do that in a whole series in the playoffs. You can do that for periods of time. That's fine.
It's so interesting to me though that you say they come in as the underdog, right? Because here's how I see it, and this is what I picture. The 3 seed and the 4 seed eliminate both the 1 seed and the 2 seed. So that's interesting for the start. But also going into this series, the Islanders have the Boston Bruins number this season. And I know it's completely different now. You got to the playoffs and you wipe the slate clean. But
those first 5 games, I almost ignore that.
It's in you're right.
The whole regular season, you can do that, right? Obviously, they beat the Penguins. The Penguins beat them 6 times, and they won 4. They won the 4 important ones.
Right.
There's a Herb Brooks quote there somewhere.
Point proven, right? You have to ignore that. And I agree with you. It's just the whole point. It's just the whole
not
underdog
like that
thing.
It wasn't
the underdog.
The Bruins beat them solidly beat them. And this is the same team that we're going to see now. And that's what worries me. They beat them very differently than the Penguins beat the Islanders.
Right.
Just like as we were talking about earlier, this season against the Penguins, the Islanders lost those games. The Penguins didn't always win them. Those games, those last few games against the Bruins won those games.
Right. No, of course.
And that I think is the difference going into this, where the Islanders really need to be paying closer attention.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's just that word underdog is real interesting to me, because going into this, no matter what seed you were, I don't know if there was a true underdog coming out of the East Division. The difference between 1st and 4th was 6 points. So everything, the whole year was so tight. The whole race
you can
so
make
tight.
Arguments.
There's so many different arguments to make for it. So it's just the word underdog to me is real interesting. But
just looking at these 2 teams and knowing what we know about both of them, the Islanders are maybe underdog is a little too much to kind of put on them, but they're definitely not the favorite. Maybe that's what I mean to say. They are certainly not the favorite, as with the Penguins, right? And I heard this on plenty of other podcasts. The Islanders aren't the favorite, but that doesn't mean I don't think they can win, and I will not be surprised if they do.
Right.
I think that would be the same thing here, and maybe they'd even be more surprised if the Islanders won.
Yeah.
So maybe it's closer to underdog, but they're certainly not the favorites. And
Yeah.
it's hard. Look, they won the series. We're going to be happy about it. I'm an Islander fan. I'm wearing this goofy hat. I got my hoodie on. I'm a homer, right? Like I'm not here to just kind of talk shit about this team and pretend like I don't want them to win. But the position we're in with the show and our writing and different things like that, you try our best to take a step back from all of that, literally take your fan hat off. I have to admit the Bruins are the better team here. But that's what, the Islanders have some friggin' work to do. They have a lot to, this Penguin series doesn't necessarily prove anything yet. It's a big deal.
Before
3 second round appearances in a row, the first time since the late 80s. Hang your hat on that.
Sure.
That is something fans really should enjoy. This is not something that, growing up, we ever thought, as 90s kids, we ever thought we would see.
No, I totally agree. I definitely agree. And before we talk about the Boston Bruins, last thing I want to mention, and it's a good point by Barker here. He says, I think as Islander fans, we should appreciate that beating the Penguins was a big accomplishment. But further, we should also recognize that the deadline was better than it appeared to be in the regular season. And
I agree with more at that second part than
Barker. I do agree with that second part. This is why I said, throughout the entirety of that, I think it was a 14, 15 game stretch after we acquired Palmieri, after we acquired Travis Zajac, that plenty of people tweeting at me, what's going on with Palmieri? Why did we get him? Piece of garbage, worthless, yada, yada, yada. Well, 3 big goals in this series. Travis Zajac fills in for Oliver Wahlstrom today, has a heck of a game, possibly saves the game, because who knows what direction that game would have went in if he had not been 100%, there to bail out Ilya Sorokin on that Kasperi-Kapanen drive. The experience can't be replaced from both Palmieri and Zajac. They were both on the Devils when they were going through playoff runs, probably more Zajac than Palmieri. I don't remember exactly when he came over from the Ducks, but again,
played in Syracuse for a second.
Yeah, so it's been a good run for Palmieri so far. A great showing from Travis Zajac. But let's talk about the Bruins. And Scott says, now come the Bruins, better offense, better defense, better goaltending than the Penguins. If the Isles want to win, it'll have to be Sorokin stealing the show and the Isles playing pesky, and that's pretty much what they've been doing thus far. They definitely have to be pesky. Sorokin definitely has to make a couple of saves he's not supposed to.
I don't think they can rely on that.
Right. One big factor that they're going to have to rely on is consistency. Consistency has not been there this entire series. If they play how they did tonight, if they play how they did in Game 4, sure, this will be a good series. But if they play how they did in Game 5, you can kiss this series goodbye. I'd be surprised if they win 1.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be a better series for the Islanders. They if they lose games, they can't do it like they did against the Bruins in the last few games of the season, or how they did against the Penguins in this series. They need to find a way to do it and lose those games a little more dignified. And we've said that for a long time. When the Islanders lose games, it is spectacularly bad.
Yeah.
And then when they win games, we're like, they should not have won that game.
Right.
Game 5, great example of that. So it's kind of tough to judge where the team can go and what's going to be most important. Obviously, goaltending out, but as we said earlier, it's going to be that secondary scoring. I think somebody mentioned in the comments that Palmieri is going to, could be an X factor in this next series. He's going to have to be. I don't think the Bruins are. They're not. I mean, they're a pretty deep team, but the Islanders definitely have some deeper scoring, or at least scoring potential. That it doesn't always show up, which is half the problem. But that's going to be they have to show up. They just have to outplay the Bruins middle and bottom 6.
So the Bruins, to me, they're a 1 2/3 line team, right? I think that the perfection line is what it is. That they're very good, and then you have David Krejci and Taylor Hall on that second line, and whoever fills in on that right wing. I don't necessarily know what that right wing looks like. I think it changes game to game. They got Nick Ritchie, they got Jake DeBrusk, but the majority of the scoring for them comes on the power play. So, discipline.
And the Islanders have been pretty good on the kill.
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
hectic as their kill looks,
but avoid it at all costs.
Oh,
you need to play this game at 5-on-5 for most of this series.
Yeah, I mean that was the Islanders' strength for a long time this season. It kind of trailed off a little bit as towards the end. They really struggled with that on top of the power play being not very good. So I'm definitely more worried about this series than I was with the Penguins. I wasn't super confident in this Penguins series, so they definitely proved me wrong there. But this Bruins series, it's going to be a lot for them to handle.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. But like I said this during the season, and I'll say it again. I know they beat up on the Capitals. They won 4-1, swept them 4 games after they lost the first. But
did they?
They did. They
didn't they lose game 4 and then won game 5? They're talking about last season.
No. I'm talking about the current playoffs. The Bruins.
Oh, the Bruins. Oh, sorry. I thought you meant the Islanders against the
No.
The
Bruins just beat up on the Capitals, and they won 4 straight after dropping the first game.
That's right.
And look, I'm not as nervous about the Bruins as I used to be. They're not the big bad Bruins they were. Even just last year, in my opinion.
You have a short memory, man. Those last 3 games against them were not pretty.
Listen, they weren't, but the Islanders weren't playing well. And I don't know.
And that's what I mean. Like, the Islanders, by and large, haven't been playing well in the playoffs either.
It's been spotty.
You're not like, and that's enough for the Bruins are not the Penguins. They're a much more well-oiled machine than.
No, I agree. But they had the next couple of days off to regroup, heal up a little bit, get a couple practices in, and we'll see what Bruins team comes out of. What Islander team comes out against the Bruins. But I'm not as worried about the Bruins as I was last year. Yes, I know they got Taylor Hall, and it's working out well for them, but I just don't think they're as deep as the Islanders. If the first line and Taylor Hall are cold, then nobody's scoring for them. Without Zdeno Chara and Torrey Krug, the offense is, 1, not doing as well as it used to be, and 2, the defense in their own end isn't as scary as it used to be.
The defense part, I agree with. The goaltending is the same, and now they have 2 really strong lines. So it's shifted from that defense being a force in all 3 zones to the Islanders really needing to make sure that they're taking care of business with the first 2 lines. So it may be a wash. And again, judging by the last few games the Islanders played against them, it's an uphill battle. There's not a whole lot to be confident about. I think I can agree with you that they're not the same, right? But they're still, if they're not the big bad Bruins, they're the medium bad Bruins, and the Islanders are playing pretty small so far.
You love that. You love that schmedium comment.
I do love schmedium and shenaniganery. Those are two good ones. But even so, if even if the Bruins shrunk a little bit, the Islanders went from medium to small, right? It's still not a great matchup. To your point earlier, there wasn't going to be a good one.
Yeah,
all these teams were good. You weren't picking anybody you wanted to play against out of the East. There just wasn't a good matchup. I mean, the Islanders won, so maybe this was a good matchup,
but
well, no, like they won. There was no good series, but they won, so it's fine.
Right.
They figured it out.
So now, as far as X factors go, in the comments, somebody had said that Palmieri was the X factor. Do you agree with that? Do you think Palmieri is the X factor against the Boston Bruins?
I think, and I said this earlier, he needs to be that secondary scoring. Again, the Barzals and the Eberles are, they might score. That line might score a goal or 2. every few games, and so will Pasternak and Marchand. So that's going to be a wash. It's really going to come down to that secondary scoring, and he's 3 goals in 6 games is pretty good considering the regular season that he had with the Islanders after the trade deadline. So I think he can be an X factor. I think that line between Pajot and Palmieri can be really, really important, not just in the defensive zone and not being a liability, but really putting the pressure on, especially if that Nelson line cools down a little bit. You're going to need that line, so hopefully they all stay kind of firing on all cylinders. But
yeah, I tend to agree with you there, but I feel like I want to lean a little bit more JG Pajot. He had a great series against the Penguins. However, he wasn't on the score sheet as much as he usually is in the playoffs. So I think that we could see a little bit more from him on the offensive standpoint from JG Pajot. And what's interesting to me is I feel like when we talk about X factors, not often do I see people refer to the team's blue line, right? And we know that Pelech and Pulock are going to continue to do what they do. They're going to try and at their best at shutting down the opponent's top lines. But maybe the X factor here could also be Scott Mayfield. Great series for him so far. Couple flubs here and there. And his D partner, Nick Leddy, for some reason swapped roles with him from the regular season and is now having a pretty rough go at it in the postseason. But Scott Mayfield's been really good for the Islanders this year. This postseason. And I feel like, if it's not Pajot, I think Mayfield is another good choice at an X factor if he can continue this consistent good play.
I'll pick another defender that can also really chip in. Pulock's got 2 goals.
Yeah.
I think, that
after shooting like 2%.
Yeah. After usually, he scores 10 goals a season, like clockwork, 35 points and 10 goals a season.
Yeah.
You set your watch to it, but he came into this series and you really need to step up. And I think these guys really rally around one another. So I think it's important when a guy like that scores a goal, they really come together, and it's important. It's energizing. So I think him scoring that goal is, both 2 goals in this series is a big deal. So I'll pick another defender that can be an X factor, maybe particularly on the power play. I'd love to see him score power play goals.
Yeah, absolutely. That goal he scored tonight, rocket from the blue line, and all he has to do is hit that net, right? Something that he didn't do too often in the regular season.
He just doesn't. He's never done that, and he still managed to score 10 goals a season. But he never does that, and it's not even like it's their strategic shots and they're just getting blocked. Like they're flat out missing the net. There's no rebound. There's no bounce off the boards. There's no trying for a tip. He's trying to just put it through the net, and he misses all the time. So it's definitely something he has to figure out.
Dean says the fourth line last year was huge versus the Philadelphia Flyers. They need to heat up to Matt Martin had 8 goals last season or last postseason, and that's true.
That Martin statistic is not something I would expect ever again.
I think he had 5.
I think he had 5 goals.
But still, that's a lot for him in the postseason. Yeah. And he did have a very strong postseason. But I don't know that the fourth line is the same as they were last postseason. I think that they're doing a good job this postseason. They're taking the body, relentless on the forecheck. I just don't know if you're going to get that offense out of them. Casey Zizekas is a former 20-goal scorer, but I don't know if you're going to get that from him again. Cal Clutterbuck can snipe. Matt Martin, for some reason, always figures out a way to put the puck in the net. But
Clutterbuck had 2 goals in this series.
Yeah, he
had 2 goals.
Did.
It was in one game, so it's tough to say in this series.
Right.
But the fourth line isn't anything close to resembling what they used to be, even last season. So, which is a different discussion for after the playoffs.
But a different style.
I don't think they're capable of it. I really, other than Zizekas, I really think that Clutterbuck and Martin are just a lot of hard miles, which is concerning for Martin's contract. But again, that's an off-season discussion, and we won't rush that anytime soon. We'll delay that as long as we have to. So, and he's different discussion. But Yeah, they need to find a way to be effective. And I think they were in the last two games. I think they found a way to be effective. I don't like some of the penalties that they took. So I hope they can clean some of that up and be agitators without making the possibly putting the team in the box and on the kill.
Yeah, I think they're, again, like I said, they're just out there matching up against other teams' top lines. If it wasn't the third line out there against Sidney Crosby and co, it was Casey Zizekas' line. So their role's a little bit different this this postseason. I think that has a little bit to do with who's scoring right now, and that's the second and the third line, and maybe making up a little bit for the first line because they're pretty much a non-factor. So you can't really match them up with Sidney Crosby and company, or now it's going to be David Pastrnak and company. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well. But going into this series against Boston, is there a question whose net it is?
Absolutely not. You can't go to Varlamov at this point. Unless Sorokin falters. No way.
Yeah. Definitely agree with you there.
I don't think there's any, other than Wahlstrom coming back and being healthy, depending on when that is, if Zajak's playing well, just like last season where, or with Hickey a couple of seasons ago where he was injured and just lost his spot, if Zajak's playing well and the Islanders are winning games, it's Zajak's spot now. I don't know. I don't know how you get, unless something, they can win games and Zajak's not playing particularly well. They put Wahlstrom back in. I'm sure it's no harm, no foul. But if Zajak's doing a lot of things right, I think he has a harder decision to make. And I wouldn't be surprised if he just stayed in.
Yeah. With the Wahlstrom comment, I think he'll be back for the next game. I think if it was anything long-term, we would have known by now. But, nothing definitive that was going to keep him out for the remainder of the postseason. So,
well, like I said, Zajac played really well. So do you mess? Do you mess with the chemistry? Like when he's in Trot's last postseason, there were people in and out of the lineup. It wasn't like it was just kind of one or two, depending on the type of game in the series. Yeah. It was fairly consistent changes, even if it was small tweaks. But he managed to press the right buttons, as we were saying, through that run last summer. So I wonder if it's strategic in trying to figure some stuff out where, is it, who can, what does the Bruins lineup look like? How is that third line working together? Maybe talks to the players, obviously general manager and Lou and the rest of the coaching staff. So I wonder if there's an opportunity for Zajac to stay in there just because he did play well without Wahlstrom in the lineup.
I don't know how different this is from the Varlamov and Sorokin situation, because Wahlstrom was playing real well as well right before he got hurt, right before he went down. And yes, Zajac played real well tonight, but I think as soon as Wahlstrom's available again, Trotz wants him back in the lineup.
All right, I can also believe that. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if Zajac stays in. I agree with you that I would prefer Wahlstrom to be in there, but Zajac played well and he seems to stick with his guys, but we'll see what happens.
So Peter brings up a good point that Zajac may be a better fit for a grittier Bruins team. Pens were a bit soft. And I don't disagree with you there. Zajac might be a good defender against the Bruins. However, don't forget, Wahlstrom did a good job himself of getting in the dirty areas, digging pucks out of corners, putting the body on people. So I don't think that Oliver Wahlstrom is much of a pushover himself. He does pretty well in his own zone. He can hold his own end.
Yeah, I think he definitely did that. He was playing a little bit of a heavier game in this playoffs, and it's his first playoff, so he has something to prove. It's a different game this time of year. It's going to be a little bit more physical, and he was up to the task. Yeah. So like I said, I'd rather him be that person, but wait until you see. I wouldn't just kind of like put Wahlstrom back in the lineup just because he's healthy. That might not be what Trott's line of thinking is.
Yeah, and I like that he has that kind of grittiness to his game where post whistle, he's not afraid to step up to somebody and get under their skin a little bit. So, Zajac, listen, when it comes to his resume and what he's been through, listen, I'll take him every day in my lineup. As a 13th guy, right? I need a replacement. Travis Zajac, yeah, sign me up. But over Oliver Wahlstrom, not favorable for me, just because you get the firepower and the grit with Wahlstrom. They're going to need that shot at some point in this series. I bet we do see it come into play in a big way against the Bruins somehow, or at some point in the playoffs. But I don't know, pal. I think that's about it for me. What about you?
I think we covered a lot, coming down from, again, the third straight second round appearance for the Islanders, something we didn't expect to see maybe in our lifetime, or not anytime soon, or whatever defeatist thing we were going to tell ourselves to try to get by. I'm good. I'm excited. We get to keep watching Islanders hockey. It's very weird this time of year when it starts getting, staying light out very late.
Yeah.
But give me more Islanders hockey.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we go, we want to give you a word from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by DraftKings. It's playoff time. The big stakes are even bigger, and the promotions are even bigger than that. Every day of basketball's playoffs, DraftKings will have $20,000 in total prizes up for grabs. The best part, it's free to get your shot at all these daily cash prizes. DraftKings will be offering 2 free-to-play pools every day of the NBA playoffs, offering players a free shot at $20,000 in total prizes. Download the top-rated DraftKings app now and use promo code THPN when you sign up to get your free shot at $20,000 in total prizes every day of the basketball playoffs. Head to DraftKings Pools page to get your shot at huge cash prizes. That's promo code THPN for a limited time, only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for more details. So, to sum up, the Islanders beat the Penguins 5-3, take the series 4-2, advance to the second round against the Boston Bruins. The Islanders will likely have another couple of days before they get back into a game. They might have a day off tomorrow. Get back to practice on what's today, Wednesday, Friday. Keep up with us on Twitter. Follow us at John Zella, at James Nichols NYI, and at the Nasman Hockey Twitter page at Nasman Hockey. But until then, guys, we want to thank you, our listeners, the Hockey Podcast Network, and the Hockey Writers. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. And like I said, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Nasman Hockey, and find our work at the Hockey Writers. Until next time, everybody, let's go Islanders.